Greetings, War Thunderers. This is Longshot with you again, with my guide to flying the patch 1.47 version of the Ki-61 Hei in arcade. This isn't the first time I've covered this plane in a video. When I created a tutorial for the Hei back in patch 1.41, its battle rating was 4.7 and the plane was encumbered with poor acceleration and a huge amount of weight in the nose, resulting in sluggish pitch controls and a near inability to maneuver in the vertical in a dogfight. As a result, I really found this plane quite a struggle, but since then its rating was dropped to 4.3 and it now has a new flight model, so I thought it was time for an update. As usual, I'll start by looking at the structure of the plane, beginning with its armour. And it has just a single plate behind the pilot. There's nothing at all protecting him from the front, so he's completely exposed to both bomber gunners and head-on attacks from fighters. The internal components reveals a line of fuel tanks near the wing roots. They're not self-sealing, so 9 times out of 10 a fire will kill the Hei, and it catches fire very easily indeed. In my experience, fires and pilot snipes account for nearly all of my deaths in this plane. Let's see how it handles in a test flight. Firstly, its roll speed, which is fairly good, about the same as a BF-109's. I'll bank it to a horizontal turn, where I'll see whether it can catch a smoke trail. If it does, then its elevators are strong and it's a fast turner, and I'm also looking at the amount of speed it loses in the turn. It can't quite catch its smoke, so this is no Zero or Spitfire. However, it's lost hardly any speed in that turn, maintaining around 360 km an hour IAS, which is simply extraordinary. Most contemporary fighters drop to 300 km an hour or lower. I'll try again with combat flaps. This time it sheds its speed quickly, but does the extra lift in the wings make this a good turner now? Well, it seems to get a bit closer to its smoke trail, but I'd still describe its elevators as mediocre. But that's a big improvement from what they used to be in the old flight model. Next I'll hold left rudder and up elevator together, and the plane really wants to yaw to the side, which tells me the rudder is quite a strong control surface on this plane. I'll continue into a climbing spiral, and you can see it's turning quite tightly, crossing over its smoke trail on the way up. The previous version of the plane was simply incapable of performing this manoeuvre at all. However, as the speed drops, its nose begins to fall, and after gaining only 600 metres, it's flattened into a simple rudder turn. So the plane's still carrying a fair bit of weight, enough to make the engine feel a little underpowered. So if you spiral climb in order to stall a helicoptering enemy, then you might be in for a bit of a rude shock, finding it's your Ki-61 that stalls, while the other plane still has plenty of energy. Next, high-speed handling. I'm rolling the plane in this dive to measure aileron lockup. As it passes 400 km an hour, its ailerons do begin to stiffen up, and they slow down further past 500 km an hour to the point where it will now be difficult to make sudden changes in direction. Its rudder response is still very good, so I'd rate its high-speed handling as serviceable. Not the best, but not bad. Let's see how well it can zoom climb. I'm going up vertically to measure how much altitude it can recover, both through its energy retention and the power of its engine using WEP. I started the climb around an altitude of 1400 metres, and I could easily level out at 3,500 metres, which is a 2 kilometre gain, but I decided to carry on up into a hammerhead. And just short of stalling speed, I turn it over using the rudder, and the plane then goes completely out of control for a few seconds, hinting at a stall spin before it recovers. I don't recommend getting any slower than 150 km an hour in this plane, as its handling becomes very sloppy. You don't want that in a combat situation. However, it's gained speed very quickly. Look at that, almost up to 400. And so I'll put it into a loop, which is something it struggled to perform in the past. Its acceleration is much better than it used to be, and the plane's now become a bit of an all-rounder. It can turn fairly well, not enough to beat Zeros and Spitfires. It can energy fight in the vertical, but probably won't beat Yaks or BF-109s. And it can boom and zoom, but not as well as a Focke-Wulf 190. But boom and zoom is by far the easiest way to get kills with this plane. I'll run through a few examples.
On the turn, and I needed to roll a little to evade, but I shouldn't even. I could have extended and come back on him, and he'd have burned all his energy. Hey guys, there's 63 climbing right up at you.
I see him.
I'm 6 clicks out, but
Roll one's going down on him.
I was able to roll and adjust to his initial evasion, but it couldn't follow when he dropped into a split S. But fortunately that brief burst from the 150-120s was enough to finish off the target. In this next attack, the target banks to the side, but I don't align my wings too closely with his, as my rudder's capable of tracking his plane, and that let me go straight into my zoom climb afterwards.
Yeah, I'll set up on cleanup. I have... Alright.
In this next one, I chase a target in a long, shallow dive, getting up to fairly high speeds and switching onto 2 other planes on the same pass.
Alright, I'm gonna take another run through this fur ball.
Someone pick up in case I get a trailer from this run.
I'm watching agent going in.
Same thing.
I'm watching. You're clear, agent. You're clear. Clear. Clear.
There's one.
Clear. Extend. Remember, extend.
Yep.
You're clear. You're clear. Yep. You're good. Nothing following. Nope, nothing tracking.
Only got one.
I'm gonna pull the same thing. Just trying to get busy here. See if I can get something.
Nope, you're good, long shot. I don't see anything.
Okay, there's I Spy hanging around. And lastly, here's a straightforward diving attack on a plane that's been baited by a squad member. But I'll have a fast-moving Yak 9 on my tail and close in quickly. And once I've killed Starlord here, I used the rudder and combat flaps to outturn him while he tried to follow me using elevators alone.
The Yak 9 is still tracking.
I have Yak 9 dancing with me out here.
Yeah, I'm coming your way.
I'll have him on toast in a second if he keeps this up.
I have a B-25 chasing a PB. Wraith, watch out.
Yeah, I see him.
Bull
What is
nearby.
it? What is it?
It's a bull, 25. That's alright, I'm bagging him. He's trying to climb up and out, which means he's just going to catch a face full of 151. Hey, buddy. Suck German ordnance.
And there's one that got away. Anyway, you can attack bombers in this plane, but you have to approach it like a porcupine having sex.
Clear, long shot.
Very carefully. Clear. It's the gunner that worries me. Okay, he's dead. Get away from East Coast gunners. The effectiveness of this plane can best be seen in a full battle. To do that, I'll show you more footage flying the plane with a squad. This is a fairly good game, but not a great one, as I make a few errors of judgment along with poor situational awareness, and on 2 occasions I should have been shot down as a result. This isn't the easiest plane to keep alive throughout a battle while staying aggressive, as you can expect to be punished for the smallest mistake, usually with the side of your plane abruptly transforming into a firecracker. Anyway, I'm climbing at its ideal speed of between 240 and 250 kilometers an hour, which will take you from a 2,000 metre spawn to 4,000 metres in 2 wet periods. And while that's happening, here's my summary of the Ki-61 Hei in patch 1.47. As I said earlier, it's an all-rounder, a jack of all trades and a master of none, which means any specialty plane can beat you if you fight it on its strengths. You want to turn fight energy fighters using the rudder and run away from turn fighters, only attacking them with intercept tactics such as boom and zoom. Avoid head-on attacks at all costs. You'll lose your plane far more often than the enemy will lose his. Attack bombers, but only in brief high-speed passes, and if possible attack from their gunners' blind spots. If you sit on a bomber's tail for any length of time, you'll pay the price. And remember how clumsy the plane gets at low speed. Don't perform stall hammerhead rope-a-dopes. Don't be overly confident with climbing spirals. By all means use these things, but remember they won't gain you a lot of altitude, and you can be caught by a prop-hemming attacker. Neither can you use the rudder to outturn proper turn fighters, as can be done with earlier Ki-61s. Anyway, I'm up at bomber altitude now, and you can see that the climb rate has matched that of my friends Tiffy 1B late and Fogglefoof 198.4. We're turning towards the battle now, so I'll let you listen to the live commentary. By the time we reach the F4, that's a bit slow. Okay, we have an Avenger. I can't see anything else yet.
Well, call your targets. I won't interfere with if you're recording or whatever.
Let's just work together. Whoever has a shot takes a shot.
Alright. I'm hoping he's got buddies, but he doesn't.
I'll head for the Avenger anyway. I think I'm a little bit closest to him, so we'll see how
You are, you.
One thing about this plane, it is incredibly flammable, and there's no frontal armor whatsoever, so you do not go in head-ons.
Alright, you've got him. I'm breaking off. There's a Yer coming in and another dot behind it.
He just dived out of his plane.
Cover.
Oh no, I'm going to be
Alright,
shot
shoot bombers
down.
on.
How about I eject instead?
Nice work. That way he doesn't get a kill. I've done my part.
Yeah,
It's been that kind of a
500,000
night.
people play.
I'm telling you.
You are a credit to your team. Okay.
Here too,
What's-
SBs.
And an SB2 behind him. SB2, what's he doing? Diving? Maybe? Dogfighting?
He's dead.
Dying? I think he's dying by looks of things. No, he's diving now. Maybe. What have we got? No climbing fighters whatsoever in this battle. None at the start, none now.
Do you ever consider advertising? Like when you're not online, we always say that, you know, our kill death ratios aren't as good as yours because people see your name and climb up to kill you.
Got a whole
Climbing
stack
Yak
coming
9
in.
right now. Advertise with smoke.
Dragging them up.
Well, I'll get one of those guys, a couple yaks.
It's no cigar. Let's dive
There's a
now.
102 climbing as well.
Yep, there's an A6M3 as well. Watch that Yak 9, you could come back for more. Okay, so he hasn't dived out yet, so we got the A6M and we've got the Yak. Dive in the A6M.
Hey, Yak 9T likes me. Oh, it's alright. I'm faster than he is at the moment.
Yeah. What's your height there at the moment?
16.
Okay, so you're a bit low. We got a B-25 just spawned.
Going over there. That Yak 9's trailing you there.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I'll take care of the
Gonna climb.
B-25 if you guys are okay. If he doesn't dive out, which you probably will.
Shadowing that Yak 9
Just
there.
dive him.
Catching
I'm
him.
curving around to try to bring him your way.
Yeah, I'm catching him.
Sweet. I'll 90 degree and we'll both get him. He doesn't see you.
Got a good crit on him.
Sweet.
Elevator's out.
He's on fire. He's done.
It's these guns. They're just shotgun effect. I mean,
Thank
just
you
keep
for that.
working for me.
Doing zoom run here. I'm just still trying to stir up the pot. Get people
We'll
climbing.
get that Yak 1.
Going from A6M3.
Yep.
He's just diving and running away.
Yep. There's 4 more behind you that just spawned. Oh,
Yeah. Up again.
so LA5
I
looks
can't
like he's
see
looking at
any
you.
of them wanting to climb. The Yak 9 may be. Stalker.
LA5?
Lap
No,
5
Yak
is
9,
climbing.
Stalker.
Lap 5 is climbing.
Gotcha. Understood.
Okay. He doesn't look like it from my point of view, but maybe my angle's wrong. Yes, he is. You're right. Okay, I've got the LA5 if you're not on him. Stalker is right on Jintok. And the I-85 is coming up to join as well, so if you want to help him out, Wraith?
I can't believe he can climb like that.
So LA5 has to be close to stalling now. Well done, Wraith. Okay, coming to help Jintok.
He should be stalling out now.
You got 2 of them, that's all.
They're both turning for me, so they should
Yeah.
be set up nice. Coming right through you.
Okay, let's be careful here, Wraith. They don't just switch on to head-ons with us. I'm going for the 185 if I can.
Yak's diving.
185 is turn 5. Watch that yak.
Drag him up.
Watch that yak.
Up.
There's a climbing 16 too, I think. Okay, I've got the 185.
Coming back.
Crack him. Yeah, got him.
I-16 beneath. No, he's diving, I think. And A6M3 coming up too. Well done, Ginto.
Thank you.
Oh, nice raid.
Oh no! It was that my lock switched off. No, my lock switched off on the PS4. That's an issue we have.
Yeah. You look like you had him cold.
Oh, I had it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it pulled me
The
off.
B7 is shooting at you, long shot.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, it pulled me right off.
Okay, there's a year 2 if you
On,
want to
I'm
go
on your
get him.
target.
I hit him, but didn't kill him.
Good now. Okay, thanks. There was a year
Good.
2 here. Okay, I'm going to take a shot again. Watch for climbers.
See, it's an issue. I don't want to lock that target until the last moment to let him know I'm there. And if I don't lock it, it will pull me off on the previous target.
Okay, Stalker Val's out back in LA7. Do you see him? He's climbed behind the base. And my engine's on the way out. Nicely done.
Keep it up and victory will be ours.
No, he's not coming back for any more.
Yeah.
This battle's become interesting.
Yeah.
Sir.
Okay, I'll do a boom
Oh,
and zoom
who's
run
up high over there?
and then start heading back towards the base because
The bomber nice and high up here.
you may as well go get him.
Yeah,
jump
see what
off.
I can do.
All right, down there, long shot.
Yeah, all good. Oh, I'm dead now.
Whoops.
Coming in.
I'm on fire.
47.
This never survives catching fire. Oh, hang on. It's gone out. It's the first time ever.
Nice.
Coming back around that 47's
That
maneuvering
is-
on you, but I got
Nah.
the target.
He has no way of maneuvering on me.
Yep, stay alive. You turned off, yeah.
Yeah, I went a bit low and then turned without speed.
Well, you're turning around on him?
Oh yeah, nearly got him.
Your plane's... Alright. I thought your plane might be more crippled.
I had time to run out of cannon.
You got him, or should
Take
we
a shot.
fire?
Take a shot. I've got no... Okay. Had him cold. Wasn't watching my cannon load.
Well, I crit his central gear leg, which he doesn't have, so he's in a lot of trouble now.
You can't fly very well without one of those. My engine died soon afterwards and I drifted back to base, but we destroyed their airfield before I landed. I do like the Ki-61 Hei in its current form. It's certainly flyable at a battle rating of 4.3, if you want a change of pace from the amazing Ki-43-3 Otsu, or the 3 A6M3s, which are also now at 4.3. Now those planes are all better turners and the 43 is a better climber, but this makes up for that with a higher top speed and is more effective in a boom and zoom role. For more examples of the tactics that work well with this plane, I suggest watching my videos on the Bf-109E3 and F4, as they have much in common, including a strong rudder. Yaks are also quite similar in many ways, but so far I've only created a video on the 9T. I hope to remedy that with tutorials on the other Yaks in the near future. Anyway, that's all I have for you in this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it helpful. Until my next one, I'll see you in the skies.